Okay, good morning, everyone. We are glad to announce our first Facebook Live interview. This time it's going to be with Tal Catran, and we're going to be talking about best practices and guidelines for startups in 2018 in the scope of our upcoming Blockchain Leadership Summit in Basel. Good morning, Tal. It's nice to see you here.
Hi, good morning. Shalom from Israel.
Hey. Actually, shall we start directly with a discussion of what we're looking at in terms of the startups of 2018? Actually, would you just probably walk us through of what the market has gone through this year?
Well, I think as usual, the markets are challenging, and we don't see so much disruptions, but we did see something coming up or cooking during 2016 and 2017. And we cannot, of course, turn our eyes away from blockchain and crypto as part of this evolving ecosystem. We also see an uplift in other technologies, which are becoming more and more like women digital health, for instance. We see more companies dealing with drones. Cyber is becoming strong. And it's not that anything else becomes weak, but again, blockchain is on the table. And regulation-wise, this is an issue. We'll maybe talk about it a lot in the conference, this is for sure. But all in all, we see numbers growing all over the world. We see new ecosystems getting involved. New countries are starting to push ahead with startups, understanding the role of startups for every economy. And we can, of course, discuss this as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, I have also noticed there is a lot of interest from various bigger corps, like, say, for instance, in the scope of our summit again, we are now looking at a lot of big pharmaceutical companies representatives actually speaking and deciding on implementing blockchain. And unlike, let's say, the couple of previous years, those are not just the small startups, those are actually big corporations. And we see that in basically every market. Do you think this trend is going to sustain? Because we all remember, like the 2017, there was a bunch of ICOs, there was a lot of startups using blockchain and somehow introducing an implementation of blockchain in their business model, and they kind of all started to disappear very soon after the fundraising periods or stuff. They did not actually succeed to develop into a business. What we are looking right now at is that the bigger industries are joining in. They definitely do not have the fundraising issue. So do you think this trend will sustain, that more and more professional participants will actually keep joining in?
First of all, I think that blockchain has gone over the borders of ICOs and cryptos, of course. I mean, blockchain is now getting into more and more industries. We see that in regards to cyber, we will see it in transportation probably. I mean, we're now renting cars left, right. Autonomous cars are coming into the picture. We see that in the food industry as well. So blockchain is finding and expand. So on that regard, for sure, also on our conference, we'll be meeting companies and conglomerates actually, which come there to look for innovation, which gets to the second part. Although those huge conglomerates companies have ability financially to develop wherever they want from the inside, for sure that if we talk about technology companies that do R&D in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year, still there is an understanding that entrepreneurship or innovation is different than what goes inside the organization, like entrepreneurship, to the part of the outside. And this is why forever those huge companies, regardless of the budget that they have for R&D, will always, first of all, be on the lookout to scout will open their doors to innovation. And this is why we see, acceleration-wise, that the big companies are opening their own acceleration programs directed for the outside startups to come in, to show their technology, to find the match and take it onwards. We see that a lot in Israel. I see it personally worldwide.
Yes, that's also what we have heard of many of our participants. So I'll be a bit more particular because the thing is that we have recently announced that our startup competition application was open. So any startup is welcome to apply for taking part in the competition during the summit in November. And I believe we need somehow to, to get a bit more clear on actually what are those guidelines and best practices for startups this year that have been developed, well, let's say according to your experience, either in Europe, Israel, or worldwide. The market is definitely becoming more and more mature. So what are those guidelines and best practices now?
First of all, I want to say that when startups decide to appear to participate in those events, especially in the competition, they need to come in a different mindset, I would say. Although it's very important to win first place and maybe there's a prize, I think no less important is to actually present yourself and be present during conferences, and again, especially in the competition. From Israel, I'm sending my promotion towards this competition and for the participants. Don't think twice. Take this opportunity with both hands, find yourself, admit yourself, and get yourself on stage. The major difference that when you're on stage, everyone probably will know who you are. When you're sitting in the audience, no one will ever know who you are. So take this opportunity, get yourself on the stage. I mean, I see that a lot in Europe, especially. I mean, there's a certain fright from failure, which put people aside, take them back. I forget about it. Failure is a major step towards success. You need to fail in order to even to appreciate the success. Don't think about it. Don't think about what people will think if you go and it will not be your 100%. 80% is also good. The actual courage, the actual motivation, the push that you give yourself. Be on stage. This is the one thing I want to say regarding the competition. Again, it's not about only the winning. It's about being exposed. It's about people knowing who you are. It's about people knowing what you do in order to approach you. It's about much more than winning. Regarding the guidelines, again, I'm trying here to answer. Are we talking guidelines regarding technology, or what exactly do you mean by guidelines?
Well, I mean, if you remember 2016, 2017, there were many startup pitches and presentations. They were all about just, speaking about some conceptual idea. Like, let's say, we will make a flying teleporting taxi. And then they just gave, like a keynote, and that was it. And this level of readiness was enough for the market back then. I'm not even saying that those projects remained underdeveloped. Many of them actually developed into serious businesses. But right now I can see that the market, getting more mature, actually rejects to accept such offers and presentations. People want to see something deeper. They want to see, let's say, some cash flow. They want to see some market value proposition. They want to see some proof of concept, or probably somehow get an understanding of how ready the business is to join the market.
You're absolutely right. I mean, as you described, years ago, it was okay to raise $5 million on a presentation. Those days are gone. And I'm not saying it's like always. I mean, there are always exceptions. And if you know how to present your idea in a good, convincing manner, and it sounds brilliant, probably still you will raise money. But more so, we see that investors are becoming, I would say, some would say maybe spoiled. I would say just raising the demand. I mean, their demands is that because they know that if they will give you money right now, probably within 2 weeks, someone else will knock on the door with a much more mature technology, and they will say, shucks, we shouldn't have gave this guy the money. We should have held back and give this. So yes, you are right. Investors want to see a much more tangible idea. They want to see an MVP at least. They want this MVP to be launched. And as I say always to startups, you are starting, probably most of you are starting to raise money too soon. And the reason I know it is because you don't succeed. And the reason I know this is if I would turn the tables and I would come to you with just an idea or probably maybe a presentation, you will say, listen, it sounds nice, but where is your proof? I mean, did you go out there? Did you trial your technology? Do you have users metrics? Do you have first adopters? I'm not even saying paying customers, but get me close to the paying customers. So the way that we try to do it today, and I can say it about my programs here in Israel, and since I've opened 11 and I'm about to open my 12th accelerator, I know a bit about acceleration, and that is that we now even enter into our programs startups which have a minimum of an MVP, which is a minimal viable product, like prototype. And what we do is we launch it. We deploy it with the customer. We come back with users metrics after 3 months, and then we turn to an investor and say, listen, we have a running technology, still very basic, but it's running. We have a customer that trialed it. We've got users metrics to show you. This is our team. Probably you've just increased your probability of getting the money. And this is what we want. Now, it's not magic, okay? It's not a kind of, you know, smart, this is not rocket science. It's just pure sense. So this is how it works today.
Totally agree with that thing, especially the fact that it's not about the magic of getting money, but just becoming a more mature business. Definitely, thank you for noting that. Now, anyway, speaking of attracting funds, I have, in my own experience, helping a couple of startups, you know, in the beginning of 2018 and in the end of 2017, we have noticed that actually there was a period of time, basically about, you know, pre-summer periods like winter and spring, when it was incredibly difficult even for a clear venture or even for a fund to find some investors for the seed round. Basically, the market was kind of dead in quite many locations. I saw that. Do you think the time for big investors for startups is coming back this year, or shall we probably wait for more?
Listen, my experience is that aside from holidays, which you have in every country specifically, otherwise, if you have a good idea and you know how to do delivery, you will raise the money. First of all, let's start. Sorry for the language. Raising money is a bitch. It's difficult every day of the week, every second of a day. It's always difficult. Think about it for a minute. You're standing with something which is close to technology, and you're pitching to a person that you have met 5 minutes ago, and you're asking him to give you $1 million. How easy can that be? Or how reasonable could that be? So what I'm saying is, first of all, to forget about everything. And excuse me, investors, if I make you angry right now, but I don't read business plans. I don't know if anyone reads business plans. I personally even don't require to see one. I'm saying for the startups, find a real need, develop your MVP, launch it as quickly as you can, and show it works. Don't think it works. Don't try to think you're changing the world. Don't go like you're, I don't know, God or something. Be humble, be direct, be active, be practical. It's not all about the speaking and the convincing. If you have good technology and it works, if the market is in need of what you're developing, it would fly. People are smart. Investors are like ordinary people, but A, they've got money, and B, they've got tons of experience. And that's it. The thing is that startups need to understand when they sit with an investor is that while they're selling in a way to the, okay, so the deal is simple. I'm giving equity at a startup, I'm getting money as an investment. But for startups, they feel when they turn to investors that like they sell their, you know, blood and soul. I mean, that's their baby, that's their startup. Whereas the investor, he buys a chair, he buys a car, he buys a table. For him, for the investor, looking at a startup is an asset. For the startup, selling his equity is like his baby, is like his flesh and blood. This, again, it's a matter of perspective. So if you ask me, money is always there for good ideas. Good ideas and good teams succeed. In Israel, we've got 5,000 or 6,000 registered ones. So if you want to talk about dense ecosystem, well, you've got it easy. I'm saying to the European, Eastern European, I mean, look at your ecosystems. You're working in between 400 to, let's say, 3,000. Here, everything is double and more difficult. So, but still, you see the numbers of exits that we do. And Israel is known to be the startup nation, not just because of number for startups per capita, but actually from the beginning. Like, this is how we started, like in a way with a CEO, which was a visionary, our founding father, and then the person, our first prime minister actually built Israel. Think about it in a way, we started like a startup. Everything else, well, everything else to do with our culture of taking risks, of not being afraid of failure, of actually learning of talking about failure. But in the end, it's about delivery. You need to deliver the technology, not a PowerPoint presentation. You don't need to walk everywhere with your laptop, and you need to, sorry for the word, spit about on someone your presentation. You don't need. A meeting could be 22 minutes. It's also okay. You don't need an hour. Be direct, be practical, show a business model, show that you know your business.
Thank you for that one. I believe it's going to definitely help those startups that are going to be pitching, presenting, giving keynotes, and having some IR on our summit. Now, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about acceleration before we finish. Now, speaking particularly about European market, what in your experience is the factor for startups and projects to succeed now? And speaking of Israel, what Israeli best practices could be adopted?
First of all, as I said, I see the ecosystems worldwide evolving. Personally, I'm much more involved, if you say, like Europe, in Austria and in Italy, and hopefully soon in Switzerland. The rest is I work with the Baltics, some of the Nordics, some of the Balkans. What I see, first of all, that entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs wherever you go, same as people are people wherever you go. What I see maybe different than here in Israel is more to do with the ecosystem. And we use the word ecosystem a lot. And when we talk about the players of the ecosystem, we talk about the academies, universities, colleges, which have the role of teaching. Then we talk about the industry, in a way, the customer for the innovation. Then we need to talk about municipalities, and you will see that in Israel, this municipality thing is becoming intense. More and more municipalities themselves, mayors themselves, open their own city accelerator, funded by them. They build the building, they make sure it works and all. Next would be the government. Government has a major role. Most of our money is with the government. Governments know how to legislate, how to get out decisions, but still having lots of money, they cannot spread it free. It's not like spray and pray like VCs do. Government needs to report to their citizens what they do with their money in most countries. I'm not saying all over the world. Still, governments, when they get involved, and again, I can bring as an example, Israel GDP is about 300 and something billion dollars, and our government invests 4.7% of GDP into the ecosystem of high-tech and startups in a way of funds, in a way of, let's say, initial investment, which you don't have to give equity for sure, but you don't even have to repay it. Lots of funds. We have the Innovation Authority in Israel. So when you talk about an ecosystem, and we just spoke about the players, and we can add the financials, in Israel and in some other countries, I do see that, you know, very established. In the more emerging countries, Eastern Europe, Africa, it's different. They still work on it, as we say. But, and funding-wise, I see those countries getting a lot, let's say, from European Union. So money is coming into the country, even with the purpose of investing into the ecosystem. But in order to do that, I mean, the government who owns the money asks a simple question to the startups. I mean, who trained you? Who taught you how to run a business, how to invest our money, what to do with it, how to commercialize, how to monetize? These are questions, and I think this should be needs to be addressed on a government level for teaching and learning in academies and universities, and then continues on. I know that in some, we all as people, sometimes when we see something very difficult, we say, it's too difficult, forget about it. No, I'm saying it needs to start. Now, if you start today, you would look back in 5 years and you say, oh my God, this is just 5 years and we've gone so far. It needs to start. So ecosystem-wise, all over the world, this is emerging. All around the world, entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. They're poor for money. They're fully motivated. They're willing to jump on live grenades if you want. But without the support, it's very difficult. With the fact that when they go home and say to their parents, hey, mom and dad, I've got this great idea for a startup, and the answer is get a real job, this is not supportive. When you go to your government and you approach investors and they say, listen, we want to invest, but we're not going to invest on a pre-seed, early stage startup. We want to see some customers, some paying customers. This is not a startup, this is a company. But little by little, it builds up. And this is what I see since I travel worldwide, like on a weekly basis almost. So every 2 weeks I'm somewhere. I see that building up. I would like to say, I don't know how close we are in regards to ending, that I do want to see more and more startups and more companies and more investors and scholars coming to our event and, you know, getting us and them familiarized in a way to see how they can all contribute and support, but we will say about it something more in the end.
Yeah, sure. Well, anyway, the thing is that there on the summit, we will have university representatives, state representatives, and canton representatives all in the one place. And our main purpose is to actually bring the people from different industries, from different levels of entrepreneurship together in one place so that they know that they can all together contribute and they can actually gather in an effort to develop something further. So this kind of expertise shared would definitely be valued. Now, well, probably my last question would be a generalization of what we have spoken about today in terms of the projects and ICOs, not necessarily those that will take part in our startup competitions, probably just those that would, you know, like one day just be surfing on Facebook and out of a sudden join the group, see that video, and probably think, okay, probably I still have, you know, like that audience, or probably I still have those confederates, you know, thinking about the startups to develop. Well, what shall startups, ventures, ICOs expect this year, 2018? Shall they be afraid of some regulation coming in place, or shall they be actually expecting easier development because of state support? What shall they expect?
First of all, no one expects easy. Easy is for the weak. We want it tough because we're entrepreneurs and we're startups and we like it tough. A. B. Well, I heard that 2017 ICOs were like 5 billion. And I can say that Israel contributed 500 million to that number. So ICOs, I mean, is growing. On the other hand, you hear Warren Buffett. I mean, what can I say when Warren Buffett says, forget about it. It's a hoax, I don't know. So it's there and not there. The let's say, preliminary initiative to start, you know, with the crypto and all was, let's have our, you know, own coin, and we don't have to rely on paying, you know, commissions and banks and all. Then came blockchain and security. Everything is good, and then comes ICOs. I mean, you see the numbers, and this is, I think, staggering for let's say, traditional startups and investors, is that when you go ICO, I mean, you raise tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And you don't give any equity. What you give them are coins, okay, are tokens. This is what you give. Very different than what we know. But we know that the economy changes from time to time. We know that a Netscape, I don't know if you remember that browser, okay, years ago, I think it was 1995, he went IPO, and who believed that a company that shows only red, meaning losses, will end up going IPO on the last. I mean, no one believed it. But this is when, okay, economy had a change of way. Now we see it like, okay, so now sitting with investors, well, a startup sitting with an investor doesn't show him a P&L, profit and loss. He's not talking about cash flow. He's talking about potential. He's talking about deal flow. He's talking about how many users I will have. All of a sudden, terminology changes. ICO is going to do the same. Crypto is going to do the same now to the economy. Now, there are those that go for it, and those that are against, who believe that one day there will not be any film in cameras and we'll do everything digitally. And no one believed it. I mean, Kodak didn't believe it. Where did they end up like gone? Okay, so things change. It takes time. It takes people that believe in it. They take a huge market. Probably, I think you heard it was just now in Switzerland, I think, that they spoke about legislation, but and the law failed. It did not pass, but 25% of population wants crypto, wants to use tokens. So this is coming, and alongside comes regulation. So, you know, generally looking at the two ends, I think India is full against, whereas Japan is foremost, and Gibraltar, I think, is leading the world now with regulation and all. So there is a middle. It's not like everything is no and everything is yes. It will come, I think, to something, again, in the middle. And I think that my prediction, although I may be holding one Ethereum, that's my fortune. I wanted to print it to have it here, to come to the conference with it. Maybe I'll do it. But I think that it cannot be stopped. Blockchain put aside is not, you don't now have to connect blockchain and then say crypto, ICO and all. Blockchain, we see blockchain going into all the industry, all the technology and everything. This for sure, it's just going up. Regarding crypto and regarding ICOs, I think that in a way will move from being a kind of a gimmick to something more serious. We see the numbers being raised. We see hundreds of millions of dollars investing. In a way, it feels like it's gone over the hoax thing. But again, I'm not Warren Buffett. I'm saying what I see from my little view, and this is what I see.
Well, anyway, what we're looking for is everyone's opinion, because definitely the market is not just young, it's in its childhood, and definitely it shapes into what we develop for the market. So this is the purpose of our summit. This is the purpose of all the accelerators. I mean, I worked at a couple, and every time, you know, being asked like, okay, so what's the trend, I had to answer, you know, it's like it changes so often. So basically the trend is what you can design right now. This is going to become the trend. Okay, so I guess it was a nice introduction of you to our audiences, of probably us to your audiences, and definitely of the scope of the startup presentation, competition, and participation to our followers and probably future guests of the summit. Yes.
I want to say something from me.
Sure.
I want to say that my excitement from participating in the conference in November comes more from the fact that I really look forward to meet not just technologies, because technologies are developed by people and business is being done by people. People invest in people, people use what other people do. So for me, it's people. So I am looking forward to meet as many people as I can, and I do make my time available for meetings, you know, not too long ones, but at least for mentoring and all, for sure to share my experience, my international network. And since I work with hundreds, really hundreds, literally, of startups from all over the world, and you can see my YouTubes and my publications and advertising on LinkedIn and Facebook. This is a call out. Do admit, do participate, do come over, do meet us. We are reachable. You can touch us, you can talk to us. It's very simple. You don't have to wait until the conference itself, but be in the conference. And from this, it will echo onwards. This is not a one-time shot. This is an ongoing process. There will be an after conference. Okay, we will stay in touch. Dennis, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, this early time in the morning, and Innmind team as well for having me. And hopefully we'll see you all in the conference in November.
Yeah, thank you for the great prospect. The pleasure is all on my side. It was actually nice to start the morning with this nice chat with you. So looking forward to seeing you and any of our followers and guests in November in Switzerland. We will be there. We will be, I hope, you know, developing a broader, bigger community of people, as you said. Thank you. So I'm going to be ending this one. Have a good one, and greetings to everyone anywhere. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.